You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 176, Smart Strategies to Stay on Top of Your Business Finances with Danielle Hayden. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I'm looking forward to introducing you to our guest, Danielle Hayden. Danielle is a reformed corporate CFO who is on a mission to help rule-breaking female entrepreneurs understand their numbers so they can gain the confidence needed to create sustainable profits. After spending 10 plus years in the boardroom as a corporate finance officer, Danielle is now in her sweet spot as the co-owner of Kickstart Accounting, Inc., where she helps business owners with bookkeeping, financial analysis, and education, and as the author of the Profit Planner book series. When Danielle isn't crunching numbers on her client's behalf or crafting the next iteration of the Profit Planner, you can find her hanging out with her two kids as she inspires them to lead their fullest lives by doing any or almost every fitness-related activity ranging from Spartan races to Pilates. Danielle does serve women and men. Now, I asked her this question specifically in the interview. So for all you guys listening, stay tuned because this episode is chock full of knowledge you do not want to miss. And I asked her some great questions. Now, I can say that because they were not my questions. I actually created a list of questions to ask Danielle based on questions that I hear often in my business with my clients or you, the listeners, around your finances. So I thought, what better way to get your questions answered than to ask them on your behalf? Now, before we jump into today's episode, I want to remind you of another episode that I think you're going to want to make sure you go back and listen to if you haven't already done so. And that is episode 70, Making Your Business Run Like Clockwork with Mike Michalowicz. In that episode, we talked a lot about Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First, because he's the author of both Profit First and Run Your Business Like Clockwork, among many, many other top-rated entrepreneur and business books. But in that episode, I shared with you, the listener, and Mike, how transformational the Profit First book was in my life and in my business and around the mindset about the money that I make in my business. So you'll definitely want to go back and take a listen to episode 70. And before we jump into today's episode, I want to share a few ways I can help you improve your time management and elevate your productivity. If you have an inbox that is literally consuming all of your time, creating stress and overwhelm, and quite honestly, is the bane of your existence, then I invite you to check out my Conquer Your Email Masterclass. In this masterclass, I break down my 5 simple step framework on how to process your emails like a pro, get in and out so you're not living in your inbox. I even share how you can catch up on your inbox even if you have 70,000 emails in your inbox. Now, I'm saying 70,000 because I actually know people who have used this system and it has worked for them that have had up to 70,000 emails in their inbox. So if you're interested and you want to find out more, head on over to amberdelagarza.com/conquer your email. Now, this next program I'm sharing with you is literally everything that I have taught, every framework, every process that I have taught about time management to my one-on-one clients over the last close to decade. And so if you want to get your hands on my Time Management Made Simple program, where I break it out step by step by step. Module 1 is Time Management Foundations. Module number 2 is Freedom to Focus. Module number 3 is Task Master, and module number 4 is Power Planner. And in each of these modules, I break it down into simple steps that you can implement right away and build on top of each other to really elevate your time management. This is an on-demand program, so anytime you want to have access to it or rewatch it or come back to it or break it up piece by piece as you implement it, that is your choice. And you can check that out and get more information on my Time Management Made Simple program by heading on over to amberdelagarza.com/time made simple. And lastly, if you really want to explore ways to work with me in a one-on-one capacity, then head on over to amberdelagarza.com/coaching to hear all about my one-on-one peak performance coaching program and to schedule a discovery call so we can chat and find out if that's the next step for you and your business. And now, let's get to the straight talk. Welcome to Productivity Straight Talk, Danielle. How are you?
So good. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. I am so looking forward to this episode. I kind of geeked out with you on a pre-chat about today's episode because, boy, does my audience need to hear what you have to share with them today about the numbers, bookkeeping, accounting. It just seems so scary for so many small business owners. And our goal today is to take the scariness out of it so that we can really empower our listeners to take action and control of their numbers. By the end of this episode, they're going to get so excited.
Oh, yeah. And I love that you said that. It is not uncommon to feel scared around this topic. So if you're somebody who's even hesitant about pressing play to begin with, it is such a normal feeling. So I just want everyone to be able to accept that and acknowledge that, because there's so many entrepreneurs who are scared of approaching their finances, approaching money, talking about money. It brings up a lot. And we work really hard to create a safe space. So just know that this whole conversation is like a safe space for you all.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's one of the most common places that you kind of just want to close the cabinet door on. It exists. If you open the cabinet door, everything's going to fall out, but you don't want to look at the mess and you don't want to see what's behind the cabinet door. But as long as the cabinet door stays shut, we can just pretend it's all good, except for we really can't run our businesses without knowing where we're at. And we can't decide on where we're going if we don't know where we're at. And our numbers really, really can share all of that with us.
Yeah. And trust me, as you're keeping that cabinet door closed, the monster is growing. It's growing. You just don't see it.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to try and make the monster not as scary today and really kind of tell you what that looks like if you want to open your cabinet door and encourage you to do so. So this episode was inspired because when I work with my one-on-one clients, one of the first things I do is an onboarding call. And we go through their goals and we go through where they're at and where they want to go. And I would say a large majority of my clients are incredibly successful, for themselves, yes, but to the outside world, except for they have no idea where they're even at with their numbers. I ask them if they're looking at their P&Ls or if they are, regularly reconciling their books and know where they're at. And the answer almost always is no.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. So I thought what would be fun is if I shared with you some of the things that I most commonly hear from my clients and listeners and see if we can have a conversation about that. Because if I'm hearing it, I know our listeners are saying it either to someone else or to themselves, and we're going to get all those questions answered today.
Let's do it. That sounds awesome.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So before we do that, I officially introduced you, but why don't you share in your own words about your business, how you help small business owners with their financials, and just put it in your own words for our listeners today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I left corporate accounting about 10 years ago, and what I had learned during my time in corporate accounting is how to arm my boss, the CEO, so I worked as a CFO, a chief financial officer, and I took what I learned by arming the CEO, the senior management team, the investors, the board of directors. I took all of those reports and the information that they use to grow and make business decisions and took that to entrepreneurship, right? I believe in my heart that all entrepreneurs deserve and need that same information. Otherwise, you're never going to grow, right? That CEO that I was working for, they were able to do what they did so well because they had this information. And so I went on a mission. I co-founded Kickstart Accounting. Kickstart, my team and I help serve entrepreneurs through bookkeeping, financial analysis, financial statement preparation and consulting, really your back-end accounting department that you imagine these larger companies having in their back pocket, right? You as an entrepreneur now have that accounting department in your back pocket to be able to go and ask questions. And I mentioned earlier that safe zone, right? Mm-hmm. We really create an area where people can come and say, look, I'm scared, I'm lost, I'm confused, I'm overwhelmed, I don't understand what this means. Oh, I was using my dad's accountant, my husband's accountant, my mentor's accountant, and they never emailed me back, or I don't want to ask them this question because I'm scared. We created a space where you can come with any accounting or finance question and know that we're going to treat you with respect. We're going to answer your question on a timely basis, and it's going to be a total 100% non-judgmental zone.
Yes. Speaking of judgmental, I think that that's one of the hesitance to even outsource and get an accountant or an accounting department, outsourcing in that way is because we are judging ourselves like, I don't make enough money to hire or outsource this service. And yet I hate doing the numbers. This is what we say, right? Like I hate doing the numbers. QuickBooks seems too big, but I don't think I'm big enough to ask for help. So that's my first question for you. How big does our business need to be to outsource our accounting and bookkeeping?
So I love when entrepreneurs come to us day one, right? I love it. And I know that seems early, and I'm sure so many people are thinking, but that's too early. The day that you have revenue and expenses is the day that you need somebody handling the bookkeeping for you. And the reason I say that I love it when we have clients who come to us that early is we really have an opportunity to start the ball on the right angle, on the right foot. We can set up the general ledger account. We can have clean bookkeeping. We can put the right processes in place, the right habits in place, and really make the right business decisions that make sense for your business from day one. Now, don't let that stop you from thinking, oh, I started my business 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I still haven't done it. If you haven't done it and you're still thinking, oh, it's a mess, or I still don't feel big enough, just know that it's never too soon and it's never too late, right? To ask for help. It doesn't matter where you are as long as you start moving in the right direction now.
Right. Okay. So now with regards to revenue, does it make sense that if I am a small business owner with revenue at 50,000, does it make sense to hire a bookkeeper? Or is there a threshold like 100,000, 200? I'm just throwing numbers out there. Is there a threshold that makes sense?
I would say have revenue coming in on a consistent basis. So I know in the business ownership community, we all want a firm answer on the same way. But I think the most important piece is that you have consistent revenue coming in your business. So when you're getting to a point where you're not having months on end without revenue, you're bringing money in on a consistent basis, and you're ready to start really looking at, okay, I want to bring on a VA, a consultant, possibly an employee. I'm starting to incur more expenses. I'm starting to sign up for more software. So when you start having more business decisions to make, that's when you really want to make sure you have somebody in your back pocket handling the bookkeeping so that you know your books are always up to date, because then you can run those numbers and have somebody to ask questions to so that you're making the right business decisions as you're making those early spending decisions.
Okay, I love that. So I kept pushing, but here's what I heard. Literally no judgment, not too small, not too big. There's no right number, because even if you have a lower income or lower revenue, by hiring this out, now you are armed, to use your words, with the information to get your business to that next level, to make decisions about your resources, whether that's outsourcing or hiring, or what program am I going to invest in, what coaching program am I going to invest in. What I find so often is that small business owners just make money and throw their expenses at the wall. Like, I'm going to do this, it's going to fix this problem. I'm going to buy this, I'm going to fix this problem. And later I'll worry about if I'm actually making money, versus the mindset around let's prioritize making money. And to your point, the habit of prioritizing profits, that's all with purposeful decision making. And I don't know about you, but when I make a decision, I like information. I'm like an information hoarder. I'm like, give me all the information so I can make the best decision.
Well, it's shiny new object syndrome, right? And I think as entrepreneurs, we can all understand that. We want to go for the newest and greatest software, coaches, programs, courses, right? Like, I find myself all the time wanting to do all the things. And we hear this with our clients too, right? They're like, I'm so excited. I want to do all of these. I want to start this new revenue line. I want to spend money here. But for me, I always say, all right, client, let's take a step back. What were your goals for this year, right? What were your goals for this quarter? And does spending this money help you align with those goals, meet those goals, and bring you into the direction that you want to bring your business? Does it help you do something better, more efficiently, or increase revenue? So those are some very key ways to start just with the shiny new objects and leading with your heart and taking a step back, looking at the numbers and aligning it.
Okay, awesome. So let's just say that we've been in business for, 2 to 5 years. We've winged it every year to do our taxes. We really don't have like a back-end system where we're getting reports monthly, and we're certainly not tracking all the expenses. Where do I start if that's me? Like I'm so scared. Like, I might just hand you like a shoebox full of receipts, and I say I, meaning I'm talking for this person that I talk to all the time. Okay. So I am like so overwhelmed. I'm so embarrassed. I have receipts everywhere. I've never really tracked it. Where do I start?
Yeah. And we hear this a lot. And what we see a lot of people who say, I started this business and I didn't realize what it was going to become. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to start you at the very, very beginning of what to do. Make sure that you are properly formed with your state. So if you are operating your business, make sure that you have an LLC and you have possibly an S Corp status, depending on whether or not you're paying yourself. Okay, so we'll plug that. We can go back to that, but I want to make sure that you have a tax ID number and you have registered as a business with the state. It seems elementary, but I can't tell you how many people who have been in business for years who say, I never did that step.
Right.
So make sure you do that step. Number 2, I want you to fully divide your personal and your business expenses. Go open up a separate checking account. Go open up a separate credit card. Keep your business 100% separate from your personal. There is legal reasons to do this. There are tax reasons to do this so that the IRS doesn't look at you like a hobby, but go and really separate them. We even hear from clients who say, well, I have a business checking account, but I still use my personal PayPal. Don't do that. Go get a separate PayPal.
Yeah.
Right?
You want to separate everything.
Everything.
And Danielle, let me just clarify really quick. So when you say open up a credit card, what if we don't have credit in our business? Can it be a personal credit card that's never used for personal expenses until our business creates the credit that it needs to get its own
Of
credit?
course.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just open up a separate, and it could be 2 cards you already have. I'd prefer for it to have a zero balance, but for instance, we had a client who was like, I have these 3 credit cards, but I don't really use any of them. I said, okay, let's just pick one with a 0 balance. That's the one that you use for all of your business expenses. Now, I want you to be that person who goes to Target and uses 2 credit cards.
Yes.
My kids know that if I'm buying anything for my business, we're going to have 2 separate transactions and everyone's just going to wait a second. I don't care what the cashier thinks.
Yes. And I thought you were going to say the person that has a Sharpie. So that's me. So I Sharpied business across the top of it because they were both in my name, right? They didn't have my business name when I first started. So I took a Sharpie and wrote business across that credit card just to not like confuse things or mix things up at the register.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever the strategy is. So some of our clients use like a Discover for personal, an American Express for business, or one type of Chase card. And look, the other thing that's worth mentioning, don't forget, you can still use points for your business. So go get the credit card that maximizes your travel points, and you can use those points either business or personal as you move forward and you're using that credit card. So
I'm so glad you said that. I was going to hold back. Okay. So like we took a trip to the Bahamas. We took a cruise last summer on the points from my business card. Well, it was my personal card that I used only for business. And I was speaking at a conference in Florida and I flew my boys out on points because why not? That is like one of the cool benefits. That's what I always say. I'm like, that's such a cool benefit to being a business owner is that you get to take advantage of those little perks.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So then now we're separate. We got separate credit cards. We got separate checking accounts. We're not tempted to we're not tempted to charge things in different places because every time we do that, it's a mess.
Right.
You do it real quick at Target and it's a complicated mess behind the scenes to separate it out, right? All right.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Even Amazon. I wanted to mention that one too. Don't forget Amazon. You need 2 accounts for Amazon too. So there,
don't skip over that because I don't do that. So tell me more. So let me tell you what I do. I'm going to be transparent. I have one account with my different cards on it. So we charge different cards, but it's the same account. So are you saying different accounts or just charge different credit cards?
You can charge 2 credit cards as long as you're going to be disciplined about it. We have some clients who do 2 different Amazon accounts. We have some clients who, so that we know what they're purchasing, so that we could categorize it correctly, they'll go open up a separate business account so that they can share access to it so that we can see what they're spending the money on. So just depending on who you're working with, if you feel comfortable with your bookkeeper and you are okay with sharing that information, your personal spending with them, then you could just have one account. The big thing is that we can spend a lot of money in Amazon, and it's not all just air quote office expenses. There's a lot that could go into what you're spending money on in Amazon, and I want you to be able to categorize those correctly in your accounting system.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I have entertained that idea only because my son loves to window shop on Amazon. And I'm like, one day he's going to hit buy and the wrong credit card's going to be selected.
Yes.
Now, that's not great if it's my personal card, but I'm like, not if it's my business card because I'm like such a stickler about keeping it separate. And then the other thing I think to consider as a small business owner is like my assistant has access to my personal Amazon account because she's buying client gifts and I'm trusting that she's selecting the right credit card, which is all worked out fine. But there's like 4 cards there. There's my card, our checking card, my husband's credit card, my business card. So I can see how we can definitely clean that up. So thanks for sharing. I am going to put it on my list to get a second Amazon account.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. And your assistant or operations person having access, that's another really good example. We created a different one for Kickstart so that we could share it and keep my son off of it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, awesome. Okay, so sorry to interrupt you, but I heard something and I'm like, oh gosh, maybe I'm doing that one wrong. All right.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did. All right, so then next up, I want you to get an accounting software. There are so many versions out there. There are free versions like Wave. There's a lot of invoicing systems that also offer expense tracking, such as like FreshBooks. However, I am reluctant to say that it is okay to move forward with tracking all of your income and expenses in a invoicing system. So I'm going to use the FreshBooks as an example. They started as an amazing invoicing tool. We have a lot of clients who use FreshBooks. However, they have not built out their reporting and categorization systems within FreshBooks. And so our clients who have tried to categorize their expenses in that system, in the long run, were not able to get the right reports for their business. So although it might be tempting to just use whatever you're using for your invoicing, for your accounting, I want to challenge you that in the long run, you're going to be really happy you have these reports in your accounting software. And QuickBooks and Xero, Xero, are the two top tier accounting platforms right now that will really give you the best reporting as you grow. And I'm going to kind of geek out for a little bit, but it is super fun when we can give clients their profit and loss statement by year, right? So
yes.
A lot of our clients have been with us a long time. So at the end of the year, we'll send them a profit and loss by year, and it'll be like 3 to 5 years. And we're like, look the way you've grown. And it's so fun. So if you can get yourself in an accounting system early, you'll be able to have that fun moment of watching what your business did year over year.
Yes, I remember. So I've been on QuickBooks since day one, and I used to be on QuickBooks desktop, and I was reluctant. I'm not usually the early adopter. And I remember when I switched to QuickBooks Online, I was like, why didn't anybody tell me how amazing this is? Like, I should have switched a long time ago.
Yeah, it's great.
For sure. Okay, so we get started. Now, what if someone is not in QuickBooks, they were in something else? Is it important to worry about getting back data put into QuickBooks, or is your philosophy start like at the beginning of the year forward? Like, what would you tell someone that was like, I'm a mess. I've been in 3 programs in the last 3 years.
Yeah. So it's hard to go back several years. So a lot of our clients who come to us are maybe more reluctant to do several years unless they haven't filed their tax return. So we offer something called a catch-up at Kickstart. And so when clients come to us, maybe it's, July, August, doesn't really matter where in the year, but, I thought I was going to do my bookkeeping for last year so I could file my taxes. I never did it. I was going to get myself organized for 2020. I never did it. What now, right? Now I'm scared. I'm overwhelmed. I'm never going to be able to file my tax return. So that's where we go in and we pull in all the transactions from the previous year and year to date this year. If you've already filed your taxes by your CPA, your tax accountant just pulled together a profit and loss statement for you, or you did it through your banking, that's okay. However, if you want to be able to have that year over year data I mentioned before, if you can, I think it's worth putting the information in because like I said, I love to be able to see growth. And I think it's really empowering for any business owner to be able to see that information and to be able to see where I was spending money, right? Like where did the trends change?
Right.
What was important to me each year? Did my spending align with my goals as I grew? And so if you can go back in time, I think it's really worth it.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So this brings me to a question that my clients don't ask me, but I ask and I'm always surprised. So I'll say, can you give me your year-to-date P&L? Can you give me last month's P&L? Can we review that? Right? And they're like, I don't have it. My bookkeeper's like 4 months behind, or I didn't get one this year, or I hire out bookkeeping, but they don't give me my P&Ls or other reports I'm sure you're going to share with us. So I usually try to have a poker face, but that's not me. I don't usually have a poker face. What I'm thinking is always all over my face. And I'm like, okay, action item number 1 is to reach out to your bookkeeper and get these reports because you are owed that. Like, that's my belief. What's your belief? And when what type of report should they be getting? How frequent should they be getting these reports? Maybe they have a bookkeeper and this is going to be new news to them.
Yeah. So think about who you hired as a bookkeeper too. We have a lot of people who come to us and say, hey, my mom, my aunt, my friend, my neighbor is doing my bookkeeping. However, if you're with a bookkeeping firm or somebody who you are paying money to handle your bookkeeping is more than just processing transactions in QuickBooks. Bookkeeping is more than just reconciling your accounts at the end of each month. That is like the basic of what we do for our clients, right? The most important thing your bookkeeper does for you is sends you your financial statements and helps you understand them, right? So for us, we offer 2 time intervals. You could either get your financials at the end of each month or at the end of each quarter. If you are a monthly client, you will get your financial statements by the 12th of the following month, reviewing the previous month. And usually it's well before the 12th, but that's our hard deadline for our team is by the 12th. And so you get your profit and loss statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, and then we'll also give you 2 other versions of your profit and loss statement. Profit and loss statement by a month for the last 12 months, and then your profit and loss statement year to date compared to prior year, as long as we have that information. And then I want you also to get from your bookkeeper, this is what we give our clients, and I hope that you're able to get this information as well. We give some key performance indicators. So right in the body of the email, if you never open up the big, hairy Excel file, okay, fine, don't open, I want you to open it. But if you don't open it, I want you to have some key pieces of information. Maybe you're really busy this month and you can't open it, right? I want you to have some key pieces of information right in your email. So we'll give some things that really stick out to us. And we think it's important for that client to be made aware of that. And then a tax estimate. If you are profitable, you are going to be paying taxes. And it's based not on your sale. So you can't get it from your point of sale system. You have to get it from your PA. So you should be getting, you should be setting aside or paying in your estimated taxes.
Awesome. And I hope that everyone hears this is that you should be requiring these reports for yourself, that you owe it to yourself to have access to that information so that you can make business decisions and not feel scared to make business decisions because you don't have the information. Like, can I afford it? Is now the right time? And when we don't have that information, man, I guess let me just share how I think about it. I am a geek. I get so excited about my P&L, okay? Whether it's great or not. Like for me, I had to change the mindset that said, this is so awesome. I have this information because when I have this information, I am empowered to make different decisions. So I don't judge the numbers. Of course, I get super excited if it's great, but I'm not going to judge the numbers because when I judge the numbers, I start avoiding the numbers. And so the mindset around it was that I had to say, this is so awesome that I have access to this information and not having a story around it. And yes. I'm going to invite anyone that's listening to let go of the stories that are not serving you. See it as black and white numbers that are giving you information so that you can do differently moving forward.
Absolutely. I always say your numbers are trying to tell you a story, and it's your job as the business owner to read the story, right? Read it, understand it, and make changes. A lot of our clients who come to us scared about reviewing their profit and loss usually feel within a few months that growth is actually possible. When you don't know your numbers, you are timid, right? Maybe you're not even going after your goals in the way that you should be. But once you know that information, you can really get empowered and confident. We had a client who came to us and said, hey, Danielle, can you teach me how to operate my business at a loss? I know I'm losing money. I just don't have enough cash in my account. I don't know where it's going. Teach me how to run this business at a loss. We did that catch up. It was October last year, and we did the catch up. And I had to say to her, I'm like, oh my God, you have a profit. So not only do I have to teach you how to run a business at a profit, but we also have to get prepared for tax time, right? So you've been making decisions all year out of scarcity and not investing in your business. Now we have to figure out, how are we going to invest in your business to minimize your tax liability and get prepared for the end of the year?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I see how that story she was telling herself was completely wrong, right? And then because we believe it wholeheartedly, we make decisions from that place. And all right, so that was a great example. So I want to switch gears to a little bit about the other reports you shared. I think that if there was a popular person on campus, it's the P&L. We've all heard of that. And so can you give us a brief run through of like what a P&L is for those that aren't really sure, they just hear the terminology? And then what are the other important reports you had just referenced and why are they important to a business owner?
Yeah, absolutely. So your profit and loss basically takes all of the places that you are making money. So we have a lot of clients who say, I can pull my sales from Square, Stripe, FreshBooks, PayPal, but they're not all in one place, right? So QuickBooks pulls all your sales into one place. Then it pulls all the places that you're spending money, your checking account, your credit card, PayPal, Amazon, right? All those places that you're spending money and pulls them all in one place. So you can see your sales minus your cost of goods sold minus all of your operating expenses. So all the money that went out of your business to support your operations. The ending number is your net profit or your loss. And that's what you use to file your taxes at the end of the year. So that's high level of what the profit and loss statement is. Now, I mentioned two other versions of that. The rolling 12 months profit and loss will be a monthly report, usually in an Excel or a PDF. I prefer it in Excel. And why I run this for our clients is because I want them to look at very specific things. Do I have a seasonality to my business? What should I be prepared for this year, right? Did I have a big dip in January, February? Did I have a big dip in September when the kids went back to school or during the summer months? What did last year look like? Because now I can use that information to get prepared for this. What marketing campaign can I run to prevent that? What do I need to have saved up to help support my operations during that downturn? So by looking at the last 12 months, you could use that as a predictor to get prepared for this year.
That's great. That's awesome. I'm thinking of all the examples you gave, but also say that your business ran based on doing launches or promotions. If you had high highs and low lows, then maybe you add a few smaller launches or you make a few more offerings to kind of level out the high highs and low lows.
Yeah, that's a great example. Or project work. Maybe you had project work. How can you change your invoicing structure so that you don't have so many high highs and low lows? We see that with a lot of high ticket projects that might span over a couple months. So what could we do differently so that we don't feel scarcity at times?
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
So the P&L will tell us ultimately how profitable our business is based on all the information in one place.
Yes. And then the profit and loss compared to prior year is really important. This will tell you two things. How are your sales comparing to last year? This doesn't always have to be, I double, triple, quadrupled my income. This might be, I lost revenue. And I encourage people to look at this because it can help you identify what's changed in your business, right? Am I doing what's working? So look at that, at your sales compared to prior year, but then I want you to look at your spending. What we see happen a lot with clients is you start bringing in revenue and then you spend a lot of money.
Right. You just saw the numbers green light all the expenses or all that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you've bought the fancy software, you bought the fancy training, you traveled, you went to the conferences, you joined a bunch of groups. This is just a really important way of looking at what you spent last year to where you're spending this year so that you can maintain profitability and see what trends are occurring. Most importantly, does that align with your goals, right? So if my goal this year was to really invest in my business, maybe I wanted to grow my top line revenue. So I hired a business coach. I ran some Facebook ads. I really went to a lot of conferences and I really invested in the advertising and marketing of my business. Now, year 2, I want to become really profitable and I really want to maximize my take-home salary. Now it's important that we see a decrease in those expense categories and an increase into officer salary, right? Whatever you want to call that account. So we want to see that shift in funds so that it aligns with your goals. Okay.
Yeah. So when you look back in the story between 2019 and 2020, my numbers tell me I'm not traveling anymore. Man, did I spend a lot of money going into conferences and traveling for business. That's like one of my favorite perks of being a business owner. I love to travel.
Me too.
And man, when I look at the numbers, I'm like, wow, those look really good now that I'm not traveling and eating out for 5 days straight at a conference.
Yes. I'm seeing the same thing. I know. All right. So then your balance sheet. This one, I'm always surprised to hear a lot of bookkeepers don't even send their clients the balance sheet. I want you to put any scared feelings aside. The balance sheet is a statement of time, right? So it's usually ran at the end of each month. And you can see what are your cash balances? What are your assets? So your assets could include inventory. It can include accounts receivable. That is who owes you money, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe you invoice clients. So it should show you who owes you money. And maybe anything else that you prepaid, right? So maybe you prepaid for a conference next year. So it should show anything that's coming up in the future. Now, what I think is a really important part, but then it'll show your liabilities. This is your credit card balances, your line of credit balance, your loans, who you owe money to, right? So that liability section is really important. You don't want more liabilities than you have assets. You want to make sure that you are not going out of whack in your business. So that means you don't owe more money to other vendors and to your credit cards than what people owe you. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then that very bottom section is the most overlooked section there is. It's called your equity section. This shows how much money you have either made or lost to date since this time you started your accounting system. This will also show how much money you've invested in the business or how much money you've taken out from as owner's draws. So this is a cool way of seeing the life of your business in your account.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So in all transparency, I don't do that report regularly.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
So I do a balance sheet when it's tax time. Like that's how they get their numbers for all the things you just shared. But I do not look at that regularly.
All right. Well, here's my challenge to you.
Right?
End of this month.
Yes, for sure. Okay. And so like, what is the value, Mike, this is my own question this time.
Yeah.
What is the value of knowing, you said from the time that the accounting software was used, that these numbers, investment in or money out, what is the value of that? Just like an overall snapshot of understanding, or like, what can I do?
I think that depends on you as a business owner, right? So if you've had a lot of investment in your business, you might have forgot how much you invested, right? We have some clients who've been long-term clients who've had to make several contributions to their business, and they forget how much money that they put into their business. And it's a good gut check, right?
Yes. And
then the other piece of this is owner's draws. So I don't want to get too far into the nitty-gritty of payroll, but just quick overview. If you're an LLC, for tax purposes, you are not a business expense of your business. So when you take that owner's draw, you don't show up on your P&L. You're just literally taking cash out of your business. It's a cash transaction. And so that's where you can see how much money you've paid yourself, is by looking at the owner's draw. Once you become an S Corp and you put yourself on payroll, you'll no longer show up on the owner's draw. You'll show up on your profit and loss statement as an officer salary, or however you want to categorize it, but on your profit and loss statement as an expense. Don't let this feel too overwhelming. Your bookkeeper should be categorizing it correctly, but just so that you know how to find what you're paying yourself. And that's a really important number. You're in business to pay yourself. So that number better be there.
Say that one more time. We're going to double down on that last statement.
Yes, you are in business to pay yourself. Make sure you are paying yourself. That number needs to be there.
Yes. So my balance sheet, I remember when I was investing early when I first started my business, and then I started taking, I call it owner's draw, owner's pay, and realizing that I still didn't like have to pay taxes on it. It was like, you're still negative. Like you know, I put more into the business than I was taking out, except for in my head, I was happy I was taking money out. And I'm like, dang, I need to take more money out because I didn't realize how much I had invested. 1,500 here, 1,000 there, not taking money out over the early time of being a business owner. So I love that you shared that, because that was my reality. Is you're just so, I don't know, like you're just so in when you start a business, you don't really think about it. And it feels like you're just dripping it out. And then until you see that big number at the end, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. You're just in it, you know, you're in the weeds. And most of us are really, we went into business because we're passionate, right? So, you know, a lot of times we're not even thinking about the 1,000 here, the 5,000 here, this, you know, we're just doing it because we want our business to succeed. But by stepping back and saying, wow, what have I really invested? It really helps. It's information, right? So I'm not saying you have to say, oh, that's too much, or, oh, I only wanted to invest $10,000. You don't have to say that. However, I have had clients look at that number and say, all right, this business needs to survive on its own now, right? Like that's all I wanted to invest in my business personally. And now the business has to support itself and the business has to support me. So it can be a good measuring stick for you to say, all right, that's all I wanted to invest.
Right. I guess my head was, again, it's layman, but I initially didn't see myself as an investor in the business because I saw myself one as the same, right? So you're putting the money in, but what was true was I, as the investor, had to be paid back. That wasn't true profitability yet. Like my business still was in debt to what was ultimately myself. But what if someone else had invested that initial $15,000? They would have had to be paid back before the business was actually profitable. And that I remember in the early years, like trying to wrap my head around and not quite understanding. Yeah.
Because you're one and the same. It's hard. It's a hard way of thinking about it, but I challenge all of us to step out and think of ourselves as investors in our business. And I'm with you, right? So just because I'm an accountant, right? And I'm a business owner too. And I've had to say to myself before, look, think of yourself as an investor as well. So I say this with you and all the listeners, let's all own that role and not thinking of ourselves as one and the same.
Right.
And then the last report I'm going to mention is the cash flow statement. So this is the most overlooked report there is. A lot of people come to us and say, I don't understand where my cash went.
Yeah, right. Like, I swear money's coming in. Where did it go?
Where'd it go? So what the cash flow statement does is kind of tie all the pieces together. So it ties the income statement and the balance sheet together. So think about a time where maybe you invoice clients for their sales and you give them some terms. So maybe they don't pay up front. Maybe they pay at the beginning of the project and the end of the project. Or you give them 15 to 30 days to pay their invoice. You have sales on your income statement, but the money hasn't arrived in your checking account yet. So that money sits in accounting terms, accounts receivable. I call it money owed to you. So it sits in that account. And the cash flow statement will tell you, here's what your income statement is, plus what's sitting in accounts receivable. So you can see it's not missing money. The sales are there, but you know that that's money that's coming to you in the future.
Yeah.
And then it also will tell you the fluctuations in your credit card. So you might show expenses for your business in 1 month, but you pay it the next month, right? So maybe you had a balance of $10,000 on your credit card and it's showing in September, but then you pay the $10,000 in October. The cash doesn't quite align with the income statement, or maybe you're paying it over time. So maybe you're just paying it over 6 months. So the cash flow statement will pick up those pieces so you can tie back where your cash went.
Okay. Thank you so much for explaining that so simply and also driving home how important it is, right? Like we could be profitable but feel incredibly poor if there's never cash in our accounts. And then we start telling ourselves a story again, and it's not based on facts. So get the information. That's kind of the theme of today's episode. Get the information so that you're telling yourself facts versus the stories we tell ourselves about the numbers in our business so we can make really good decisions.
Yes. I like
awesome.
that.
Danielle, this has been such a great episode and you've been such a wealth of information. Can you share with our listeners where we could find out more about you and your firm? And you shared a little bit about the services you provide, but if you want to wrap that all up as well, because I feel like there's going to be some people listening that are like, oh, that's all great, but I don't want to do it. Where do I go to get help?
Yes. Yeah. Come find us at profitplannerbookkeeping.com. If you're somebody who wants to do this on your own, you're more of a DIY style, on that website, you can find our book series. We have a 2-part book series where it will walk you through over the course of 2 quarters, weekly strategies with daily action tasks. So if you're wanting to find out more on how to do it on your own, on that profitplannerbookkeeping.com, go to the books tab. If you're somebody who says, that sounds great, but I'm never going to do it on my own, you can come find out more about our bookkeeping services on that website. Or I encourage you, go directly to calendly.com/Kickstart Accounting, and you can book a 30-minute strategy call with me. You will get me personally, not somebody from my team. We can have a very honest conversation. No sales, no judgments, just a conversation about what you're doing today, how you're doing it, and how we can make that process better for you as a business owner.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk. And I sure hope you found my conversation with Danielle to be incredibly valuable and perhaps insightful. And not just valuable and insightful, but for this episode, I wanted to make it feel so simple and empower you to take action to really take control of your finances, to organize them, to move forward to those next steps so that you feel like you are on top of your business finances. You know, I believe this is something that is just not talked about openly enough because there's so many areas of this that feel so uncomfortable. But as a business coach, as a coach where I'm in and out of business owners' lives and businesses every single day, I know that this is a common problem. I know that it's a common issue. I know it's a place where many of you are incredibly stuck to take action. And so if you could just hear my words today, hear me tell you, you can take control of your finances. You can take the next right step for you and your business to get your finances under control, organized, and ultimately understand the numbers so that you can make educated, smart decisions in your business. So I encourage you to break down this episode, play it back again if you need to, and just determine what action will you take based on what you heard in this discussion with Danielle. No change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So what will you take action on? You owe it to yourself to pause for just a moment to get really, really clear. Add this action item to your to-do list. Schedule it on your calendar so it actually gets done and is not just written down on a piece of paper or kept in your head. That's truly the best way to increase the odds of you focusing on this and getting it done. If you enjoyed today's episode, I hope that you hit subscribe. If you have been a longtime listener and haven't yet subscribed, make sure you take a few moments to hit subscribe so you do not miss another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.